Okay. I had some audio trouble, so I'm gonna record this once again. So, in this whole thing, now we have the realization and reveal of Overdrive for Ether Gear in its full form. And that's gonna take up most of my discussion for this review, most of what I really want to go over when it happens to, pertain to this chapter of Eden Zero. But we still need to talk about what else went on. First off, we had Daichi and his confrontation with Rebecca. I did like him bending the coin before discarding it, just to kind of have like a "there's no going back" thing to show his conviction to himself, not just to the readers, but really like him saying I'm gonna do this and I can't not, like, after this point, I have to do it. And then he goes back to getting ready to torture. And at this point, we see more about like his ether gear. We saw like the roots going to Rebecca, but now we find out what really they do. And I still really like his ether lines. He has my favorite ether lines currently in the series. But his whole power pains tree, it's like digs into his opponents and like just causes them agony. And that really just shows the separation between him and the other element four. Like, they have their own powers and whatnot, but like different to Fairy Tail's element four is they all had magic, in their own specific element. Obviously, their earth being more rock and stone, whereas element four's earth is more plants. Is they all had their own magics, but at the end of the day, they were all like wizards. They were all fighters. Whereas the Eden Zero element four, they all are much more kind of like set in their own little territories because, well, we don't know exactly the extent of, the full extent of their ether gears. We haven't seen, other than Laguna, them go all out. But what we have seen from Laguna, besides his ability to, turn people that cry around him into water, is he has straight abilities that let him end up using it for like fighting, water blade, and he had the big water fist and stuff. Whereas like Sylph is more focused on her like ability to like use her wind to steal stuff and like weirdly compress it into her like little wind orbs. He obviously has a more of a marksman. He's ranged. He's a sniper. He's got other guns, but primarily, as we've seen, he's going to be a sniper. So at the moment, you have them when you spread them out. The only one that's really like, get in the fight seems to be Laguna, even though he seems to also favor his, the hacks of his power. But then we see Laguna actually show up and help Rebecca by turning her into water because she was crying out of pain. And Daichi's not happy about that. He's upset that he got in the way. He's ruining his fun, and he wants to pick a fight with him. And here you have Laguna saying, "You're not doing that. You may not absolutely do any of this to this woman because if you do this, you're gonna piss off Drac and Joe, and you know how the boss, like how scary he can get." Daichi immediately like freaks out, realizing that, and like he's like, let's just keep this between us. Let's not talk about it, and we'll call it good. Like tries to offer him some chocolate, and you have like and I'm not taking that kind of moment. But I really like this part because in like a similar kind of response when you have like for instance you have Fairy Tail had Brandish. She was a very lazy, very relaxed, very low energy character, but she was willing to put her own interests aside in order to serve Zeref and to appease to Zeref's needs and wants, and that be because she respects him. Now with Zeref, that like respecting an emperor because the loyalty, this level of position, your whole dedication to the throne and the country. Whereas with Drac and Joe's crew, it seems to be more of fear, and as a crime lord, that fits his way more than something like whereas it would fit Zeref, where was loyalty and respect. Now, after that point, we get back to Sylph, fighting Homura, and I do gotta say, I do like seeing Homura do like the little combative pole dancing aspect of it. But she, just gets a large mass of blades, throws her ether blades at Sylph, who just absorbs them into her wind, manages to get the medicine that was supposed to go to Wise, and then ends up pulling Homura into her like little wind ball. Now, when it comes to all the characters right now, because I would like her to end up winning this fight, but I'm not entirely sure at the moment how. She would either have to somehow get out later and then fight, or maybe, she ends up figuring out a way around this whole, Sylph's ether gear and ends up getting out to deliver the finishing blow. And personally, I'd be fine with her pulling up like maybe like some upgraded sword, or her having that partial ether gear form, like or not ether gear, the partial overdrive form to her ether gear that like Shiki and Jin have, or has like the Valkyrie dress, battle dress that she can don in order to vastly increase her strength. Personally, like I said, her end up getting it, I'm fine with, because everybody ended up kind of getting like a really big like addition to their powers in the last arc. Cheeky's wasn't really, but at the same time, we hadn't really seen him go into his partial overdrive form for a long time, so it kind of fit. Plus, we were still getting kind of the full scope of his powers. Whereas with Homura, hers was more of just like the way that she made that sly move that ended up killing Garrett. But I would like her to see like a boost, because you had Leaper Ether Gear added to Rebecca, and you had the Arsenal suit for Wise. I'd be perfectly happy with Homura and defeating her opponent with something new that she had obtained between the last arc and now. Like I said, something like the battle dress that we know that the Shining Stars are able to don in order to increase their abilities. Which would be really nice too, because we know that she just recently took up that mantle, and even if she could maybe only like access part of it, or maybe like not the full status of it, then it would still be a really nice moment for her, and her trying to fill in those shoes that were left by Valkyrie. Which again, I'd really like to see. It'd be a really nice additional little step for her. Then we get back to Sibber and Wise, who are interrupted by Fee. And Fee's is pretty straightforward. And man, his rifle is massive. He's just carrying that big old rifle in. And he's like, listen, I got a little carried away. I didn't mean to kill him. Because Sibber's trying to be like, don't kill this guy. He's so young. He shouldn't. It doesn't really seem right. He's like, no, I'm not supposed to be killing him. I got a little carried away. But if you're harboring this guy and you're going to stop me from taking him, then you're a traitor and I'm going to kill you. And just pulls out a handgun ready to shoot down Sibber. So I'm wondering why he has another gun. Like, if he specifically just has, like, lots of different guns, or maybe he has the rifle for more of, like, his more, like, specific sniping. Not from, like, the idea of, like, oh, yeah, it's far away, I'm gonna snipe him, but more of, like, for him and the idea of the sniping game. Like, his pistol is more of, like, oh, I'm not wasting my rifle on you. This is for people that deserve it. And then, ends up switching the two. I don't know. And at the moment, it's still a little bit curious on that aspect. He's probably just got a lot of guns. I would like to see him with a bunch of guns. I think that'd be really cool just to pull out, gun after gun. Maybe he'll be his fight with Rebecca. That's who I'm still hoping his battle is. Just because Mora, like, with Sylph makes sense. And then you got, like, Shiki over here with Jin and seemingly Dragon Joe. Maybe that team up is coming. But when you have two gun people, I think it'd just be cool to have them fight off. And plus, like, just imagine them shooting bullets at each other, and then you get it like Wanted, where the bullets are just hitting each other, and you're just matching shot for shot. That'd be really badass. But then Shiki ends up putting on his partial overdrive form, and this form is actually more advanced than the one that we saw, like, against the Parasite pretending to be Elsie, and what we saw against the Kurenai mech. This one, like, if you look at the wings on it, and I say wings. I've seen some people say horns. I'm going with wings. It reminds me more of like just look at the shape. It looks more like wings. It looks more kind of like the lines on like or I guess they're not lines. Well, they are in the movie. It's like a little imprint. But the wings on Captain America's helmet, or well, I guess it's like a shroud mask. Either way, it looks like that. And I know there's like some characters I need to reference that like that's all based from, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. I have to look. Herbie's. No, I think he has wings on his shoes. Either way, you know what I mean. They look more like wings. And you have Jin, who's like, oh, you can use Overdrive too, because we know that Overdrive seems like, from what he described as having the ether lines go off your body. But when they start to kind of like wage attacks at each other, here comes Draken Joe, who just kind of like sideswipes both of them, and ends up being like, oh, that's enough. You're not supposed to kill him. But just so you know, that's not really Overdrive. Real Overdrive is when you push your ether gear like past its like breaking point, past its critical point, and it ends up like affecting and changing the ether that makes up your whole body. And like what we saw with Shiki and Jin, their ether lines were just swirling around. Shiki's has the hair color change, and I mean that's really the only other thing that really kind of alters with them. Other than that, we just see what we saw with Jin. But with Draken Joe, it seems to alter his physiology. And the way that I really kind of like see this and kind of like can make this out is when you think about something Fairy Tail Slayer magic. And again, I know it's the easiest reference for me. Easiest reference. Because not only is it, the most knowledgeable manga I know, but it's also for the same author. So you can really kind of look at them side by side. And be able to see things from each other that correlate. But with Slayer magic, regardless of the type, if you're a God Slayer, well, God Slayer, the redheaded stepchild of Slayer magic, but you know what I mean. Whether you're a Dragon Slayer or a Demon Slayer, the idea behind Slayer magic in general, in a easy TLDR way to kind of say, you're using like shape-shifting magic, but it's not like straight, I'm turning into a dragon. For Dragon Sling magic, you're temporarily altering part of your body to be like that of a dragon, and there are some effects that are permanent because overall, in the end, it does change you permanently. But with it, you're like altering your lungs to being able to like intake but also exhale your dragon attribute. And you're changing parts of your arms and legs in order to coat them in whatever your attribute is. But at the end of it, you end up becoming, whatever yours is. And Grace is kind of weird because we don't have a canon name for his equivalent, but really just Devil Force, I think, is the best way for our Demon Force, whatever. But at the end of it, you end up becoming what that is. And with that, it's more of like I said, it's more like shape-shifting. It's more of like this transformation into whatever, like fully into whatever you're mimicking. Whereas with Ether Gear, as we know, the Ether lines are more like a schematic. It's more like if you ever looked at like plumbing, the way that like pipes will go and route and whatever, or like wiring, like electrical wiring. It's more of like, it's moving around in different ways in order to have different effects. But as we saw, we can see right here with Drac and Joe, is it seems to alter your physiology, but not as the same as like, like dragon slaying, you are turning into a dragon. Where it's different in like that aspect, you're altering your body to be like something else. I can see the Overdrive as being more of like merging with your power. Whatever like aspect of your Ether Gear that it affects, it seems to kind of be combining with their body and really just kind of like make a new form out of it. And at the end of the day, when you have like it's just an like idea of their transformation. At the end of the day, when you have like a Dragon Slayer magic, you're gonna end up turning into a dragon. You can have like a partial dragon form, as we saw with like Natsu and Dragon Cry, but at the end road of it, you are gonna be like a giant full dragon. Whereas with what I can at least estimate from, and I just kind of like theorize for Overdrive, is it will just kind of make you into this weird, like, astral form of your power. And I'm guessing with Shiki's, it's gonna be like this. I can just, like, picture in my mind, like, this energy-like shape to his hair, and just, like, an aura coming off him. And we know, canonically, I don't think we've seen what color his hair is when he goes into, like, the Overdrive. We can see that it changes color. We don't have a full one. I think green is the easiest one, because we know his ether lines are green. But, I just imagine, like, a full body kind of like green space aura to him, and he's got like starlights all over him. And just imagine his silhouette in the night sky, but instead of that dark black and blue, it's just like a mystic green. I think that would just like sounds really cool. But it seems also like more. It seems more specific to again your power rather than what your the idea of just ether in general, because with their abilities, it's more of you're manipulating the way that the ether behaves naturally in order to give it some different different effect. Magic is more of magic and fairy tale. It's more of you're taking it and you have like if you have like some form of some form of power. I guess power doesn't. If you had a machine that did a specific task, you're fueling it in there, using that as fuel to use kind of some kind of like learned art. Whereas Ether Gear, you're more of manipulating it, and instead of a fuel, you're more of like twisting it into a different kind of way for it to manifest. It's a little bit weird, just in the kind of like idea behind it. One is you're funneling it into do a specific thing. I guess they're both doing, but you know what I mean. Like I said, with I think the gap between them is in the idea of Overdrive. If you put that in Fairy Tail's magic, that anyone can do it, because the idea is that you're kind of like merging with your power. It's kind of like with Bleach, with Ichigo's final Getsuga Tensho, and became Zangetsu instead, and instead of the idea of like with Dragon Slayer or Slayer magic in general, you're altering your body specifically to mimic this species. Whereas the Ether Gear, you're pushing your ether to take this to kind of like do this effect so much that your body composition, your ether makeup starts to instead construct itself to kind of fit that further. But we'll find out more. Like I said, it's an interesting concept. I was not too keen on naming the power form like after a reference. Overdrive being something from Wraith Master. I guess it'd be like, we have dragons in, Rave Master, but it'd be like, because Let had his Roar of the Dragon God ability. It'd be like instead of Dragon Force was called Dragon Force, it was called Roar of the Dragon God, which, again, I like references, but I don't know. There's something about it being like a main staple kind of thing, like a big aspect to Ether Gear that just kind of like irks me a little bit. But it's one of those ones that it's not important, so it doesn't bother me too much. I am looking forward to seeing these cool like weird astral being Overdrive Ether Gear form. But anyway, other than that, comment below. Hopefully this video actually holds up and the audio doesn't break apart. But other than that, I'd really appreciate you comment below, thumbs the video. Press the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. And thank you all for listening. Bye.